Hello, hello, welcome. We are live, and it's been a while. Well, it's been about a month, hasn't it? Because there's been some sneaky little reveals. We're here tonight to talk about everything that went down about a week ago now at Hasbro Pulse Con, and we are joined by the usual suspects. We've got myself, we've got Daniel East 1000 in the house, all mic'd up and ready to go. We've got RoboQuip. We've got RoboQuip Collects. James, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Oh yeah, top of the world, mate. How about you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm even better because we're also joined by a fourth talking head tonight. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, the maestro behind the Star Wars Fan Fun Day himself, Mr. Neil Livesey. Neil, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, good. Absolute pleasure to join you. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries, no worries. Keen to get your thoughts on the stuff that was revealed at PulseCon, and we've got some little tidbits to talk about that relate to everything that got shown. As always, before we dive into the reveals and the talking points that we've got on the docket for tonight's show, we like to talk about things we've picked up recently in the world of Star Wars and beyond. So we'll go around the table. James, mate, what have you picked up recently? What's new in your collection?
Where to start, eh? I don't know if you want to make me big on the screen or not, Steve. There we go.
I always make you big, don't I?
Hey.
Hey.
We've got the rather nice TVC Cobb Vanth. I managed to get this one a little earlier because Pop Culture in Australia had it in stock, and I had about 15 quid's worth of vouchers. So it worked out cheaper than waiting for the UK stock.
So you only had to pay about 35 quid for it then?
I think it was about £19.
With 15 quid off, you paid about 35 for it then, based on current pricing for TVC.
Oh, right. It's a fucking slow day, isn't it?
I was just about to say it's Friday
I'll wake
night.
up in a minute. Yeah. People are going to think I'm betraying the cause here.
I was just about to say,
I'm usually the one bad mouthing vintage.
3 3/4 inch on a 16-inch stream. What you doing to us, James, man?
When they do it right, they do it right. I'm not necessarily convinced it was worth waiting 5 years for this, but I'm fucking buzzing to have it, and his mouth moves. I love it when they do daft shit like that.
That looks mint.
And then, since it's PulseCon, we'll bring it back to Black Series just so everybody doesn't think I'm turning into a black sheep. We've got our lovely Stap, the droid.
That looks class. I can't wait. I've got to put hands on one of them last weekend, and it's a fucking beautiful piece.
I haven't put it down since I opened it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I picked that up, which is the Shadows of the Empire graphic novel, because it's somewhat foreign to me. I'm aware of the game, and I've watched the cutscenes, but I've never actually, read anything in depth about it, shall we say. The game's a little brief in terms of the characters it introduces, so got to do my research ready for when these nice new figures come our way.
Is that a trade paperback, or is it a single issue that you've picked up, or is it
trade paperback? That mate. However many issues in the first run it was, 6 or 9, I can't remember. But it's all of them.
Am I right in thinking that's Killian Plunkett's artwork?
I wish I knew enough to confirm what you're thinking.
It should be on the cover.
You've put him on the spot, bless him.
There is a signature down there, but
that looks like
it looks about right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's. I know that Killian Plunkett has done the actual strip, and he now works for Lucasfilm. He works in animation with Dave Filoni.
Yeah, because he's.
I was going. Yeah. The fucking name rung about.
Yeah, he's concept art and all that sort of stuff for Clone Wars, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did the Zygerian comic book for the Clone Wars that then got turned into the episodes.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his work from that little booklet that came with the Clone Wars DVD back in the day.
I didn't know he went as far back as doing this.
Yeah.
Nice. I haven't read it yet, so I'm very excited to.
Happy days, mate. I thought as a Clone Wars fan, you'd been all over alt names that were involved in.
I'll be honest, mate. Royal Mail fucked me about with it, so I took it out the envelope and I was a bit pissed off with the postie, so it just sort of got chucked to one side. Yeah.
Hey ho.
Question
Nice
my
pickups,
honour, sir.
Hey, we've got to do it. Dan, what about you, mate? What have you been picking up?
Oh, well, James has shown the snap off, so I got that. I've reviewed it. It's on the channel. I also ended up picking up Darth Maul's Speeder, which it's on my shelf up there.
The invisible
I didn't get it in time. It's the invisible limited edition invisible Darth
cloaking
Maul
device variant.
the cloaking
Holocron
device
series.
But yeah, I've got a review in the pipeline for that, so keep an eye out for it. It's in the edit. I've just bought a lot. I'm trying to keep track of what it is that I've been picking up, but I've got the new Acolyte figgies. Oh yeah. Just waiting on May Assassin, because for some reason that one's delayed.
This is when the comments start blowing up.
I know. Like, Acolyte. Well, I rather enjoyed it, so stick that up your bunghole. There we go. Yeah, so they're pretty cool. They're really good figures, to be honest. That's oh no, I got this one today as well, didn't I? Unlimited. He's
just ruptured all his.
Oh, sorry, lads. I ruptured my pants earlier when I opened this one up. He's beautiful.
Oh, it's good to be back.
It really is, isn't it?
You know it.
Well, that ties into one of my recent pickups, to be fair, because here's one that, not that I made earlier, but one that's like the precursor to Dan's, because Dan's is loose, mine's in the box. That works out all right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm very excited about this one as well. It's one of those where, I mean, it's only just started hitting Star Action figures, which is where chin chin, shameless plug. I picked up mine, but it's one that I've seen in hand a couple of times at recent events, and I've got to say, like, even though it's reused, because there are some elements of this figure that have been recycled from previous ones, it's reuse done right in a way that makes sense. It's logical. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. It looks absolutely top tier. I think if they were going to do a Darth Sidious figure in Black series, put like after Return of the Jedi, it had to be this one.
100%.
So yeah, very, very keen on that. Love it. Picked up another Black series figure as well, because again, wasn't overly bothered about this one originally. But again, after attending a couple of events recently, of which we'll touch base on in a bit, got my hands on this one and thought, I need one, because it is. Talk about quality, like the quality of this thing. Like the thing that surprised me the most about this one when I picked it up was how heavy it was. I really wasn't expecting it to be as weighty as it is, and you can feel that just in the box as well. It's such a sturdy figure, and that's one of the reasons why I wasn't overly bothered about it at first, because I know what previous droids and battle droid figures, especially in Black series, have been like. They've been a bit janky and a little bit unstable on the feet, and this one is solid in every sense of the word. It's just an awesome looking figure. Yeah, really excited to crack that one open and give it a review, which brings us to my next pickup, which is not figure related, but it's a little, it relates to the channel. So production, you're going to see production values on this channel skyrocket, because we're not going to be filming on the phone anymore, lads. We're going all in.
Look at you getting your big boy pants on.
I know. It's got a little wig on. No, but do you know what? It's been one of the main kickers for me in terms of why I've not been chugging out the content as often as I'd like. Is just because it's filming on a mobile phone. For me, it's an absolute nightmare, especially on a Google Pixel 3a, which is not the best by today's standards. So I thought, you know what, it's time. If I'm because the passion has been reignited for the content and the figure reviews and all that sort of stuff. And again, that's in part to you lads for joining me on these streams. So I thought, you know what, it's time to up the ante a little bit and to start putting out some quality, creamy content once again. So watch this space. Neil, that brings us to you, my friend. What have you been picking up?
First of all, Chrysanthemum from the Book of Boba Fett. I've already got the comic one because I really loved the character in the comic. But when they did this one from the Book of Boba Fett, I thought, I've got to get that one as well. Oddly, it's a bit shorter than the comic version. I have done a TikTok on the comparison of the two, and I think that the comic one is made up mostly of Chewbacca parts painted black or molded in black, with a new sculpt for the head. Whereas I'm almost certain this is a whole new sculpt, and I think that's a cracking figure. I had to get one of these.
Oh,
the D23 Rex.
It's an awesome piece.
Love anything from Star Troopers, so that was an easy one for me. And then I got Obi-Wan. I just love anything from Obi-Wan. And what you know, they've probably done, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 different Obi-Wans from the TV series. But I don't have this one. And I got that one in anticipation of getting the final dual Vader, which I'm hoping they're going to bring out again in an archive or something like that, because I missed it the first time around. And then the only other pickup I got is not Star Wars related at all. But just so you understand, I was 17 when Star Wars came out. Yes, I'm that old. And so I never got to play with Star Wars toys like perhaps you guys did. My Star Wars back in the day when I was 6 or 7 was Thunderbirds. And this is a J.R. Rosenthal Thunderbird 1 from 1966.
Wow.
sweet.
I'm trying to put together a full set of the Rosenthal Thunderbirds. They're quite odd because everybody's seen Thunderbirds and knows that's what Thunderbird 1 looks like, and it flies like that. But for some reason, probably because they were friction toys were the in thing in the 60s, it's actually a friction toy that goes that way along the ground. But it's one of those that I loved it as a kid, and to me as a kid it was Thunderbird 1, and now I love it because it's that bad it's good.
that is vintage. 66.
Yeah, that's proper vintage.
Well, vintage for us. My vintage is 95 onwards. Nice pickups, mate.
I love that. I've got a lot of love for Thunderbirds because I grew up watching the reruns in the 90s. So no, it's great, man. I love that.
That's cool. That's very
well.
Cool.
If you want me, I know we shouldn't be doing Thunderbirds, but look at this. In terms of how what I said, that bad, the good. Look at this Thunderbird 5.
Oh wow!
Wow!
It definitely didn't have those flashing lights all the way around.
No.
Who needs a Millennium Falcon or a Razor Crest when you've got one of them bad boys there? Flippin' heck. Brilliant, mate. Love it. We've got some comments as well in the chat. We've got quite a packed house tonight, actually. So thanks everyone for joining us. We've got Isa. I apologise if I've butchered the pronunciation of your name, but thank you for joining us. Holy moly, rediscovering this channel after ages. Got into Star Wars collecting after watching your videos. Captain Rex review was a classic. Thank you, my friend. Much appreciated. We've got Crash the Hedgehog in the chat. Welcome again, Crash. Not sure if this was talked about recently, but I am so hyped for the Shriek-Hawk set coming out later this year. Me too. And just to further James's point about how we usually tend to ingest trash the vintage collection on these streams, I'm actually more excited for the TVC ones than the Black Series Shriek-Hawks. So you can soundbite that and you can play that going forward, and every time I slag off TVC. We've got Musgrave in the chat. Has anyone heard anything on when we're getting our vintage collection, The Ghost? I haven't, because I haven't backed it, but I do believe we've got two chaps with us who have. So have you guys heard anything? Because it has been a little bit quiet on that Ghost front. James?
Fuck all. I found out yesterday, that the HasLab Giant Man Marvel Legends figure is apparently starting to ship before the Ghost, despite the Ghost having a 2-month production lead on it. So I'm a bitter old man, and I was not happy about that. But all good things come to those who wait, I suppose. An update would be nice, though. An update would be nice. Although I'm quite happy for it not to come, because I've no idea where I'm going to put it. Oh, mate, I've got fine room for 2 of them temporarily. Fooling his money easily parted, as that other saying goes.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if it makes things any easier for you, I've got a bit of space just behind the laptop here, where I'm pretty sure I can accommodate one. If you're really, really struggling for space, I'm sure I can sort it out for you. Don't worry about that.
He's using an old Jedi mind trick.
Not next door, Gummy. Only money.
I'm in the business for wall mounting. So yeah, if anyone's got one going spare, got a nice big wall there that I could just hang that on.
There we go. So we've sorted your problems out for you guys. Yeah. There we go. Sorted. We've got Sea Lion as well. Just further to, I think, James's pick up about the Blurg, waiting alongside his to come, alongside the Deadpool and Wolverine Marvel Legends figures. Do you know what? I don't dabble in Marvel these days. I used to back in the day, back in sort of 02, 03. I was a massive glutton for the Toy Biz Spider-Man stuff, but I don't dabble in Marvel anymore. I keep it focused, or try to. But again, just seeing those Marvel figures recently at a couple of recent Hasbro events, those Marvel Legends figures look... Oh,
I was a naughty boy and pre-ordered those when they went up the other month.
Yep, same.
They do look very, very good.
So good.
We've got David. Welcome aboard, David, fellow Northerner. Wasn't at all bothered by the stat or excited by it. It arrived today and it looks superb. Blown away by the box and presentation. Yep. Absolutely got to agree with that point. For me, I think this is a topic that we've all discussed at some point between ourselves, but packaging for me is a bit of a big thing, and so that stat really kicks me right in the nostalgia, because I remember walking into Toys R Us in '99 and seeing that and thinking, what's that? Where's that from? I've never seen one of them cheeky boys before. And it's they've really outdone themselves. I think when I grab that one, that's going to be an inbox piece.
Can I just question that's not a Mandela effect thing? Did it actually ever come in a red and black box like that? I know it came in the green and black.
Yeah.
It did.
Sneak peek or whatever they called it, but I don't think it ever came in a red and black box.
I'd have to go back. You might be right, to be honest, because up until you just mentioning it, I didn't actually consider the fact that that the sneak preview one was a green box.
People in the comments,
yeah,
flee to Google, find out.
Yeah,
I've got the Mace Windu sneak preview figure kicking about behind me, and yeah, now you've said it, because it were released not as an Episode 1 set, it was a Power of the Force vehicle. So maybe they did a packaging revision down the line. I can't actually remember. I think they did. They did do it in a yellow, in a red and black box, but it was the more traditional windowless box with the figure displayed at the side. It wasn't a presentation style box like that. But yeah, I didn't even consider that until you just mentioned that, Neil. I feel like a fraud.
I thought I might have had an 80. Whatever it is, 2005 price guide, but it's not on the shelf. I must have taken it out to do some homework or something, because it'll have it in there if they did it.
Yeah,
I thought they maybe did a 12-inch one, but I've looked into it and no, I was imagining it. So
yeah, it's they did Maul in 12-inch, didn't they? Because that's what the Black Series one's based on.
Yeah.
Because the 3 3/4-inch version of that was again the windowless box with the figure displayed at the side of it. But yeah, never even put that connection together in my head, Neil. So there you go, you've taught me something tonight. We've got Landspeeder Luke, the legend himself, has joined us. Welcome aboard. And we've also got Seth, who was a big fan of live action Thunderbirds as a kid. Well, does that resonate with you, Neil, or was that?
Yeah. Seth and maybe 4 others, I think.
Oh, if he is he on about the 2006 one? Was it? Let's not swiftly move on, Steve. Swiftly move on.
Hey! Busted did a banger theme for that. Come on now.
That's the only good thing, Dan. That's all I'll say. That's the only good thing.
To go.
God, if that was the only good thing to come from it, I don't want to see what makes it so bad. David's back again. Scrap TVC and fruit the plastic for Black Series. He knows that. He's been to one of these before. And then Seth again, as mentioned, finally got Sidious in from Star Action Figures today. Yeah, he's in stock and available to buy, so head over and check Star Action Figures out. So yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm sure there'll be more discourse in the comments as we go along. But before we dive into the Pulse Con reveals, which was the initial premise of this stream, before we decided to pack the house with, as I said, another talking head. Neil, mate, just for those of you that may not be watching, Neil, just if you just want to give us a bit of background about your connection to a galaxy far, far away, what it is about Star Wars that appeals to you as a fan and as a collector, and if you wouldn't mind just informing the good people about that, that tiny little event that you run.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, I was 17 when Star Wars came out, so I had just started work, and on the bus on the way home, I used to read the local evening paper, and like all the papers back then, there was all this hype about this film that had been released in the States and was coming to the UK, called Star Wars. And there was lots of hype and all these photos and all that. And having been into science fiction, in one way or another, like I said, the Jerry Anderson stuff, things like that, I got really excited about this. And when it was eventually released in the UK, it wasn't shown at every cinema like releases are now. It was only released in major cities. So my choice was I could either go to Manchester to see it or to Blackpool. And you can probably tell by the shape of me, food helps me make a lot of my decisions. And I thought, well, if I go to Blackpool, I can get decent fish and chips afterwards. So I went to the big cinema there, which isn't there anymore. It's been demolished, I think. And watched it, and I was completely blown away. I'd never seen anything like it before, and since, if I'm honest. But in the foyer, you could buy a program which I've still got. I think it was 25p or something like that. A little booklet, but also where they were selling these little booklets, they had a display cabinet with some toys in, and I thought, oh, look at that! That's quite good. That's that X-wing that I've just watched, and that's that little robot thing and all that. And that's it. I thought no more about it. I just loved the film. Thought it was great. A few weeks later, I was walking home from work, and to change from one bus to another, I had to pass through the shopping centre. And I would walk past the toy shop, and there was a little Obi-Wan Kenobi figure on a card in the window. And it made me laugh. It actually made me laugh out loud that somebody had made a doll of Alec Guinness. And I found it that funny. And they were 99p, you know. And I think I had, you know.
All right, rub it in.
Yeah. But anyway, I just found it that funny that I bought it, and I took it home and I pinned it on the wall using a drawing pin next to my Farrah Fawcett poster, which any self-respecting teenager had in them days, you know. And then the next time I was passing, they had an R2 in the window, and I thought, oh, that'll look good, you know, pinned next to me Obi-Wan, and you know. 40 odd years later and several £1,000 later, I've got this huge Star Wars room full of toys. And I really only ever collected 3.75 figures and vehicles and play sets, because, you know, that's where it all started, that 3.75. When they released the Black Series, which I think I'm right in saying was launched at Celebration Essen with the Boba Fett in the box with his accessories all kind of separate, I bought one for my son because at the time he was putting together a Boba Fett cosplay, which used to be on a mannequin next to this. Oh, wrong way. I can't get used to that. Next to this Jar Jar that's behind me, but he's now moved out, which I'm glad about because this actually used to be his bedroom. This room, and he's taken it with him, and it's in his office at home. And when I got home, I thought I should have bought one for myself. But it's really good, that. Anyway, I didn't. But when the next one came out, which I think I'm right in saying was Greedo, and then Han, I think, or Luke X-Wing, I bought those. And I'm an opener, by the way, as you can probably see around me. But I kept all those in the boxes. And the idea was that when I eventually put this room together, knowing that it was coming along at some point, I would just get a couple of detolfs, pick the best ones out, and put them in this detolf in kind of little dioramas, so that, you know, a couple of sand troopers and the land speed and whatever. When I started to open them, I thought, wow, these are not going anywhere. These are beautiful. So I've hated Hasbro ever since, because I now buy 3.75 and 6-inch, and because they're bigger, you run out of space quicker than you do with 3.75. So that's where I'm at. Now, you know, you've been to my house, Steve. It's quite a big house, and all the kids have now left home, and there's just Sue and I here. So we will probably move down at some point. So I've got some big decisions to make about which bits I keep and which I won't keep, because I don't think I'll ever have a room as big as this. So that's me, and that's what I collect. Moving on to the Star Wars Fan Fun Day, I went down to the very first Star Wars Celebration Europe, which was in London, and it was the first celebration I'd ever been to. And I went with Ben when he was a lot younger, and as we approached the venue there was a guy wearing a vintage T-shirt with R2 and 3PO on it, and as he approached, there was one of the 501st guys dressed as a stormtrooper marched over to him and stopped him and said, "Where are you taking these droids?" And the guy, in his best Alec Guinness voice, went, "They're for sale if you want them." And I just thought, wow, I've died and gone to geek heaven. There are other people on this planet that like Star Wars like me. Thoroughly enjoyed the show. But when I was coming home on the train, I thought, you know what? There's nothing like that up north. We need to have something like that up north. So the following May, which actually fell on the Saturday, fell on May the 4th. I think this was 2005, I think, or 6. I can't remember. My memory's terrible as I get older. We did the very first one, and we had one guest. It was Kenny Baker. We had a few stalls. Looking back, it was actually rubbish. But it was. But it was the start of something.
Mm.
And this small venue that I used, which was actually a little conference centre, was swamped. And I thought, well, if I do another one, I need to find a bigger venue. So the next year we looked around, and eventually, I'm a Blackburn fan, right? So I know, I'm sorry. And I tried Blackburn Rovers, but the price they wanted for the Premier Suite was like ridiculous. So in the end, we ended up going to, our arch rivals, Burnley, and they had this great big room with dividers in the middle. So I said, I don't think we need all of it, but I'll hire half of it, please. So they kept the dividers closed. We hired half of it. We had 4 guests that time, and then that was swamped. So the following year, we hired the whole room, opened the dividers, and I think we had 8 guests, and away it's gone. So we've been doing the show for 16 years. It's the longest running Star Wars fan event in the UK, well, in Europe actually, and it's just grown and grown and grown. Now, the actual numbers of people who come fluctuates. Star Wars kind of fluctuates, doesn't it, in popularity?
Yeah.
And it depends what film is out, or what TV show is out, or whatever. But it can also depend on which guests we've got. Obviously, if there's a lot of people who want to meet a particular guest, then numbers. I remember, I think that the highest number of guests we've ever had was the first time Darth Vader himself, Dave Prowse, attended, and that we haven't beaten that. That's still the highest number of attendees we've ever had. But the show kind of evolves each year. We change something. We have props there, photo opportunities, lots of stalls selling memorabilia. Costume characters, obviously, actors from the movies and stuff. And about 10 years ago now, we used to take all the guests out, for a Chinese or a curry or whatever. the night before, and I was picking up the bill. When I say I was picking up the bill, the show picks up the bill. One year, and I said to Dunny, you know what? People would pay to sit and eat with these guests. We should maybe think about doing a thing, dinner with the Star Wars stars the night before, and then instead of the show picking up the bill, the punters are picking up the bill because we'll charge extra for the ticket. And it turns out to be like an incredible success, and has been every year. And as you know, every single penny we make goes to the charities. 90% of it goes to East Lancs Hospice, and then some of the local charities, and we like to raise money for Munsterlander Rescue because I have 2 large Munsterlanders. And to be honest, sometimes the show itself, the Star Wars Fan Fun Day, breaks even, and the money is made the night before, because obviously you can imagine that what it's now at Blackburn Rovers. We eventually got it to the venue that I wanted in the first place, and what they charge us for a meal, we charge more than that, obviously. So just by buying a ticket, you've contributed towards the charity. And then we have, raffles and an auction. We're very blessed that people give us a lot of really nice stuff. Like, for example, Nick Gillard this year. I don't know. Nick Gillard was the stunt coordinator on the prequels. He gave us his page from the script that includes the line, "I have the high ground." Wow. And so we auctioned that on the night, and I think we got about 450 quid for that page of script.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we're lucky to get lots of donated items, and like I say, that's where all the money is raised now. If we have a good guest and we get a lot of, or a good number of guests, and we get a good number of ticket sales, then the show actually does make money. But a lot of the money, the most of the money that we give to the charities, is made on the dinner with the stars the night before. And if I can just finish by saying a big thank you to everybody who's come to the show over the years, who's donated, who's bought things in the raffle, in the auctions and stuff like that. This year we passed £75,000.
That's incredible.
That's insane. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Well done.
Yeah.
No, Neil, the work that goes into, I mean, I can vouch firsthand because I've been to a number of the shows over the years. I think the first one I attended was 2012's show, and oddly enough, it was actually my very first convention. I'll say it was my first fan event. It was my first ever Star Wars event that I'd ever been to, and you set the bar pretty high, mate. And like you said, I mean, year on year, the show's evolved, the show's become bigger and better with each year, and with some of the guests that you've got for 2025 show, mate, I think that pattern's going to continue. So yeah, just keep up the good work, mate. It truly is one of the, if for those of you watching, if you've never been to one and you're in the yeah, exactly, literally, if you're in the UK, what's your excuse?
Well, you know what, Steve, there's one more thing I wanted to say, and you linked me to it really nicely there. When I did that very first one in Clayton, and then the next one, the very first one at Burnley, we used to do a little. We don't do it anymore. Perhaps we should bring it back. But we used to do a little cosplay competition for the kids, and I would ask them, like, oh yeah, what's your name, John, or whatever. Where are you from? Bacup, or Accrington, and I'm like, people have travelled from Bacup and Accrington and Bury to come to this show, and I was blown away then. Now we sell tickets every year. There's a guy who comes from Australia every single year.
Wow.
There's a guy. There are the guys who come from Denmark and Sweden every single year. And there are, Frank Rich. I think Frank Rich was there the year you were there.
It was, yeah.
And other people who come from the USA to the show every year. Mm. So it blows my mind that it's become a truly international show. So when sometimes I see comments on Facebook or X or whatever where people are going, well, I'd like to go to this, but it's a bit far. I'm like, no, it's not. You live in London. There's a guy who comes from Australia. That's a bit far.
Yeah. No, it's a wonderful event, mate. You should be proud of what you've built. It is like words can't I can't say enough about it that'll describe just how good they are. But like I said, if any of you guys are watching and you've never been to one of these events, make 2025 the year that you go, because headline act, Neil, headline guest, who have we got coming next year?
Well, we've got Vanessa Marshall, who voices Hera Syndulla in Rebels, and as I'm sat here, chewing the fat with you guys, Dunny is hard at work back at his house, trying to nail some more guests. Now he's got some incredible offers out. Or offers out to some incredible people, I should say. But we, having been caught out before, I won't mention any names until they've signed a contract with us.
We're looking forward to it.
We are, and we say that because we are the three of us are planning to make it to next year's event. Myself and Dan, we went. Back in 2023, the year before last, we went, and Dan, that was your first Fan Fun Day.
It was incredible. I really enjoyed it. Steve was like, look, I've not been in a while. We'll see how it goes. As soon as we went there, so much figgy fiendry. So much just the vibe. It is a Fan Fun Day. From someone who's been to Celebration, and Celebration, don't get me wrong, is great. But that way stressy. You go to Fan Fun Day, it's fun, and that's I can't commend you enough for it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
The work that you do is just brilliant.
It is. It really is. And like I said, I can vouch for the number of shows that I've been to, and I've done the dinner as well, which I think we'll have to make things happen to do that next year. I think as well.
Yeah.
Get back on that one. I was
you've got to.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I think it was because the first dinner I did was 2013, and we were sat with Dave Prowse, the late great Dave Prowse, and that was an unforgettable experience. Doing the quiz and having somebody who was there, who was able to, you sat there doing a quiz and you're thinking, I think the answer to this Star Wars question is so. To have Dave Prowse sat just opposite and say, no, it's this. It's like, I'm not even going to second guess you, mate. I'm pretty sure that you know. So it's one of those things. It's got to be seen to be believed. But again, just to echo the sentiments of Dan there, the work that you've done over the years, mate, is absolutely amazing. And hats off to Dunny as well, and all the team at the Fan Fun Day. It truly is like Dan said, it's a fan fun day, and that's the emphasis. So can't wait. Really looking forward to 2025. Sure. Just one more thing before we move on to the Pulse Con reveals, because that again it will bridge quite nicely into the products that we're going to talk about. You've got another little project to plug, Neil, regarding some comic books. You want to talk us through that?
Yeah. When we'd done the Fan Fun Day, Dunny and another guy who used to be a partner in the business said to me, why don't we do some of these for money? Because obviously you're not allowed to make money from a Star Wars show. There are certain guidelines from Lucasfilm Like, you must keep the word fan in the name. You can't make a profit. You can't have more than, I think it's 2,500. You can't have more than 2,500 visitors, because then it's encroaching on Celebration, for which Reed Pop pay Lucasfilm for a license. So obviously, and we never wanted to make money from it. It was all about raising money for charity. But these two guys said, should we do this, but a more general show, like a Comic Con? So we did. And to cut a very long story short, we did that for 10 years. We sold the business earlier this year, because I'm getting too old to do all that nonsense now. But in one of the shows, it was Carlisle Comic Con. Tim Perkins, an artist who used to draw for Marvel, DC, Defiant, Image, he was an obvious choice of a guest because he lives close to me. And I said to him, don't worry about driving up there, jump in with me, and I'll take you up to Carlisle. So as we were driving up, he informed me that he runs a class in Blackburn every Wednesday called Fantasy Art Unlimited, and it's an art class, but it's comic art. So when we were travelling back again after the convention, I said to him, you know what, I think I'd like to sign up. And he said, well, we do a free taster sessions, just come down any Wednesday, let me know when you're coming, and if you like it, you can sign up. So I did, and I signed up. And I met a guy from the next town to me, Great Harwood, called Steve Lamming, who's a really good artist. He doesn't think he is, but he is. But he's also a writer. And during the class one week, he said to me, I've written a graphic novel. Would you like to illustrate it for me? I really like your art style. So to cut another long story short, I said yes. So, and then came the COVID and lockdowns. So it was perfect for me because I had something to keep my mind ticking over. And during lockdown, I illustrated this graphic novel. And using FaceTime and Zoom and all those things, I kept in touch with Steve, and I would, hold up my drawings for him. What do you think of this? Whatever. And eventually, that book was published. It's a graphic novel called Crucible, Book 1, Rexus Mort, and there are 3 books. We're currently working on book 2, and coming to your point, what you can see in the picture there is a comic called Twilight of the Icorians. And I said to Steve, before we publish book 2, we should do a comic that's in the same universe, but it's a separate story to the Crucible story. So that's just gone into production. They are screenshots from when I was working on Wednesday. That's gone into production, and the reason we've rushed that into production is I had the opportunity to be a guest at Malta Comic Con, which is a pure Comic Con. Comic Cons in the UK have come to mean pop culture event, and they have guests from TV and movies and gaming and all that. This is pure comics, so it's just comic artists, just comic writers. Although they have started adding in media guests, but the guests have to be related to a comic. So they have. So, for example, Stefan Kapicic is going to be there, who plays Colossus in the Deadpool movies. So it has to be comic related if it's an actor. And so I'm off to Malta in November, but we don't have enough copies of Rexus Mort left to make the trip worth it. So we've rushed that comic into production. It was finished, by the way. I don't mean we've rushed the artwork or anything like that. We just hadn't planned to put it into production until next year. and so we'll be launching that comic at Malta Comic Con.
Amazing.
Wow, it's
amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Cool, man.
I should have prepped it before we went live, but I've actually got a sample of one of the comic books that you illustrated, Neil, that you gifted me when I last saw you. And I should have poor preparation on my part. I should have had it to hand, but again, I can vouch. I used to draw quite a bit when I was younger, and not to blow smoke up my own backside, but I always thought I was pretty good at it. After seeing your artwork, and yeah, I was a bit shit looking back.
But that's probably
Maybe I should have.
not the case.
Yeah,
all artists are their own worst critic.
100%.
And in some ways, that's a good thing. The artwork in Twilight of the Aquarians is miles better than the artwork in Rexus Mort, because hopefully you're still learning all the time and developing as an artist, and so each thing you do should be better than the one before.
Amazing. So in terms of availability, wider availability, where if people want to pick this up for themselves, can they? Is there a place that they can grab this when it's released? I'll
need to come back to you on that, because we've not ordered a big run of it, because, like I said, we're just taking it to Malta. When we launch it properly in the UK, I'll obviously put stuff on my socials, and I'll let you know where it's going to be available.
Perfect. For those again who may not be familiar with your work, be it comics, the Fan Fun Day, or your legendary TikToks, Neil, whereabouts on socials? Whereabouts on socials can people find you, mate?
I'm Nez with a Z, Nezflix 3000 on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm just Neil Livesey on Facebook.
Brilliant stuff. We'll be watching your career with great interest.
Oh, you did it.
No, that, like I said, that's amazing stuff. That is really, really cool. But that I was keen to get a bit of a bit of discourse and a bit of discussion going around comics, and particularly that project that you've worked on there, because reverting back to action figures, and thanks for sharing those stories, mate. Thank you for coming on and sharing everything about the Fan Fun Day, your connection to Star Wars and the project, the comics project that you're working on. It's really cool to me. It's cool to get a bit of something different on these shows, because it's usually just figures.
Like talking bollocks.
Yeah, it's usually just
I can talk bollocks. Especially after a few beers, Steve will tell you that.
It's actually a really lovely story, as Steve said. Honestly, I always like hearing stories of Star Wars stories from people that have lived it from the beginning, or have outlived it. Not to make you feel old, but I find it incredibly interesting. So
yeah,
cheers, mate. Nice
you
one.
Can't make me feel any older than I already feel.
And it's me just about to say you're only as old as you feel, but
you're only as old as the woman you feel.
Way.
Oh. That's another stream altogether, mate. That one. But no, like I said, the comic book side that brings us nicely into 55 minutes in. But the Pulse Con reveals that we got a look at last week from Hasbro. I'd go as far as to say that this was the first Pulse Con in a while where I feel like Black Series fans and TVC fans were served fairly. And naturally, I'm a little bit biased as a predominant Black Series collector these days, but the talk about comics and comic books and what have you, and the fact that James brought a sample with him during the pickup segment of this stream. One of the reveals in particular from PulseCon, and we're going to start strong, because my God, myself and James, we video chatted while we were watching the live stream last week, and when I say I screamed when I saw this figure. We knew it was coming based on leaks that we'd had from Hong Kong or wherever it was, from the factories where he was missing a head and missing accessories and all that sort of stuff. But we knew it was coming. I did not expect this figure, Prince Shizo from Shadows of the Empire, to look as good as this figure does. I've never hit a pre-order button faster.
It's a fire figgy. They listened to us from our Gaming Great stream.
My God.
Oh, yes.
Guys, I'm keen to get your thoughts. I can't say enough about this figure without spoiling myself and my chair and my rug. But what do you guys think? I mean, I've got a particularly strong connection to this figure just because it wasn't a vintage Obi-Wan, unfortunately, but this guy back in '96, as part of the Power of the Force line and as part of that Darth Vader comic pack. I mean, anyone who's been tuning into this channel for any period of time knows this, but this guy was my first Star Wars figure. So to get him in his definitive form in Black Series, in 6-inch, in all his sculpted, detailed, soft goods, plastic glory, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
I mean, I'll kick off by saying I have very little connection to this character. As you guys know, back in the 90s, I wasn't particularly familiar with Star Wars. My interest sort of peaked with Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars, and even I think this is fucking awesome. I mean, I was familiar with the games and obviously the fact that the figure line was a thing, and I'm always up for seeing more obscure characters come to the Black Series, especially when they come into mainline as well. It's no secret by now that the internet's aware that this isn't the only Shadows of the Empire figure that we're going to get. But yeah, that's why I got the comic. I like to do me due diligence and, you know, have a read into what all these characters are about if they're going to be displayed on my shelf, because all that sort of adds to what it's representing in the collection. I actually found out a really interesting fact today that allegedly in one of the novels that have been published since Disney have owned Lucasfilm, there is a slight mention of him in one of these novels, and it's on the Wikipedia page somewhere, that means that he's basically now part of canon, if you want to, you know, associate the fact that it is just a mention but within a canon property. And it's something strange, like after Darth Maul took over Black Sun in the Clone Wars and killed more or less the whole council that were around that table, that he then rises to power and becomes the leader within the ranks you know, of the Black Sun. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, just look at it, man. I mean, it looks like one of the best figures we've had in years.
Literally. Like, there's just some. I mean, said it about the Super Battle Droid, but it's solid. It just there's so much. It's just. I mean, somebody mentioned it earlier in the chat. We're eating good with Black Series.
Oh yeah.
We're eating really, really good. What about you, Dan? I mean, I'm pretty sure on the Gaming Great stream back in the day, this was one of your picks, wasn't it?
It was my pick, and Hasbro ate and left no crumbs. This is just perfection. I love as well the fact that this isn't just like Gaming Greats, but it's the fact that they've labelled it specifically Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit, I mean, like James has alluded to, there's been a tease online that Hasbro's kind of already confirmed a certain muscular Chad is coming. A ginger head, where is he? I've got him on the shelf there, actually.
Here's one he prepared earlier.
It's one that I prepared earlier. Come on, Hasbro. Give me him. Oh, Dash Rendar.
Yeah, that chongus beefy boy.
This beefy boy in Black Series, same level of detail as that Shizor. Shizer.
Shizer, he definitely is not. That's all I'm going to say.
It's just, no, it's a beautiful, beautiful figgy. I'm so pleased that they're doing it. We're getting it. And this was an immediate pre-order.
It's just gorgeous, isn't it?
It's perfect.
It's amazing. Neil, what about you? Is this one for you?
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely loved Shadows of the Empire. I loved having you worked 40 years in sales and marketing. I just loved the idea that they were doing this huge marketing campaign with a game, a book, a comic, toys, trading cards, and there wasn't a film. So as well as loving it for what it was, the characters and the story, and the thing that you had to buy all of the things to understand the story fully. When there was no, I love that part of it, but I was fascinated to watch how it unfolded, that they were doing this huge campaign with no movie. And I don't know if any of you guys own the soundtrack for Shadows of the Empire, some of which is on the N64 game. But if you don't own it, go out and get it off eBay or whatever, because it's one of the best Star Wars soundtracks out there. It's incredible. But back to the figure, it's amazing. And one of the things that kind of converted me to the dark side, to the Black Series, and I think that's why they called
yes, join us.
I think that's why they called it the Black Series, because it is the dark side. It's just the fact that you can get some of these figures that you had before in a bigger scale, and therefore with a lot more detail on them. And I've only seen pictures of this, but I can't wait to have that in my hand. That's an incredible figure. And Steve, you told me about, because I have not seen the rumours about Dash Rendar, which I think is very funny that they named the character after a building product. but I hope they do more. I hope they do more from Shadows, because I'll take my money.
100%.
We are supposed to be getting a Luke and Leia as well, aren't we?
Yeah. Because
I don't know how much you know about Shadows, but the trading card set that was painted by the Hildebrandt brothers, there's a naked Leia card that everybody was scrambling to get. And so I hope the Black Series is the naked Leia. That would be fantastic.
I think
just making a note of that.
Dan's going to be looking for that trading card later for research purposes.
And speaking of research purposes,
either that or he's going to be rubbing them under.
I'll be rubbing them under.
Secrets of Shadows of the Empire, Mark Cotter Vaz.
Oh, amazing!
So that's book. It's fantastic. I'm so pleased to pick this up. I got it for like £6 off of eBay. And that was all for research purposes, like with James, just because I want to get clued up, ready for the content.
Amazing. I'm going to have to track that book down myself. I don't actually own that. Just going back to what you were saying, Neil, I have got the soundtrack. I bought the LP when they re-released it. I've only listened to it a handful of times, but it is so good. Like you said, not only the fact that they did an entire action figure line for this video game and comic book, but the fact that it got its own music, the fact that it got its own story, it got its own. It was like you said, it was. I mean, I'm young enough to just remember it. That I remember the hype around Shadows of the Empire because that was perfectly timed for me getting into Star Wars. Hence why Shizo was my one of my first figures. And I remember the hype surrounding it and the anticipation and the excitement was movie levels of hype. And the only thing I can ever think that something like that has been replicated since that wasn't a movie or a TV show release was The Force Unleashed in 2008 when that came out. There was a very, very similar level of hype around that. it's not its own action figure line, but its own subline within the 30th anniversary collection. You know, every store you walked past, you had Starkiller graphics in the windows. The soundtrack, the comic book, the video game itself, everything, and I love that.
We used to be a proper country.
I love that about Star Wars, and I think going back, what's that? What we taking a look at? Yeah, let's have a look. What we got? Oh yeah, it's upside down, mate.
I knew that.
There we Look at that. Oh,
Beautiful.
So
cool.
good. So good. But yeah, that it's that sort of Star Wars that I absolutely love, and I think this is a standard that's been set with that. If we just go back to a couple of streams now, but the Last Command set that they did with Mara Jade and Luke and Joruus C'baoth, and just tapping into that weird side of Star Wars, that obscure side of Star Wars, and that just weird. We've said it numerous times on these streams. Weird Star Wars is the best Star Wars, and this falls right into that bracket. So I am all here for it. All here for it. I was so excited when this got revealed on Friday last week. Just moving on throughout the Pulse Con reveals, and that brings us to some more weird Star Wars. This time from the Gaming Greats line itself, we got Dagan Kara? Right.
Dagan Gera.
Okay. This guy. I'm gonna allow.
He's armless, mate. Don't worry.
I'm gonna allow you, James, to educate us about this one, because I'll be honest, when this figure was pipelined and then revealed last Friday, I was watching along and I was thought, yeah, cool figure. Haven't got a foggiest idea who he is though.
I'll try and be as brief as possible, although I'm not necessarily known for that. So he's basically sort of your main villain for Jedi Survivor. He's a Jedi from the High Republic era that ends up getting frozen in cryostasis. And then when you discover him, you think, here's an ally for Cal who's going to help him fight the Empire. But he's got a really checkered history. He discovers a planet called Tanalor and wants to sort of branch out another Jedi temple on this planet. And he's very proud of his own discovery, and it's hidden through a nebula, so it's almost like the ultimate safe haven in the galaxy. And then it comes under attack by a particular race from that era, and the Jedi Council abandon it completely. So he gets rather furious, turns to the dark side. His fellow Jedi try and stop him. He wants to destroy. I forget now, but there's these compasses that will lead a safe path through the nebula to this planet. And he's trying to gather them up, and somebody stops him, lobs off his arm, shoves him in stasis. And then you get this really cool scene when you discover him. He's telling this story to Cal, and Cal sort of experiences it through visions as well. And as he's explaining everything, he's using the Force to deconstruct his lightsaber. He takes the crystal out and he bleeds it. And as much as I love the Acolyte, it's like 10 times better than what we saw in that. So, I mean, for me, I'm fucking happy that they're making this, because not only is it an awesome character, but it's one of the first figures in a while that we've had from the Jedi games that is a character and not just either a repaint or a repurposed trooper of some description. My only little nitpick is I mean, I've had people on Instagram trying to tell me I'm wrong, but in the game his lightsaber blades are more orange than they are red, because it's not exactly a case of hatred and anger that he is pouring into that crystal to bleed it. But you know, Hasbro don't exactly know their oranges from the reds, do they? So we'll give them a free pass on that. But I would at least urge you to go on YouTube and, you know, watch the cutscenes and see what this guy's all about, because he's really interesting. And This guy's like, it's too good of a figure to pass up, Steve. You should buy it.
I'm going to, because again, it just taps into that weird side of Star Wars. Just on that thought, Dan, I'm going to let you offer your thoughts on this figure just briefly, because my laptop has just decided that it wants to shut down. So I'm going to just pop off and get my my laptop charger, but I will be right back. Dan, your thoughts, please.
No worries. I will give my thoughts on the figure. I have only seen clips on YouTube because I haven't played the game because I'm not a gamer, but immediate pre-order for me because I just love that era of, like, you know, High Republic. It's just something different, and he's armless as well, so I love that. I'm always about limbless characters, and he's cool. He's just really cool looking. Neil, sorry, what are you thinking of the figure?
Well, I'm not a gamer. I stopped playing games when controllers had more buttons on them than I've got fingers. And so I have no connection to this character whatsoever. I mean, it's cool that he's clearly from the High Republic era. I won't be ordering it. I won't be buying it because I have no connection to it. I hope that it's a little bit cheaper than all the other figures because he's only got one arm.
Yeah, you would hope that.
You'd hope, but we know Hasbro and their games. Unfortunately, they had a little chance to make it worth the money. There is I mean, it's a bit controversial, although I've not seen many people moan about it. When you face the character in the game for the final time, because the way this game's built up is as you progress through it, you unlock different saber forms and designs. So you'll start with a double-bladed lightsaber, it disconnects into two, then there's a heavy lightsaber. So he sort of mirrors what you unlock. So by the end of the game, he's got all these mad skills, and he's, you know, as you can see, you've got a lightsaber that you can have like on the screen, or you can split it in two. And his other arm appears in the nature of how a Force Ghost would appear. So when he splits the lightsaber down, he's using it with another arm that's not actually there. They could have done that. I'm glad they didn't, though, because if you look at some of the Holocron figures and even the Force Ghosts, you shine a light on that and you can see the inner workings. I think it might have just taken away from the overall aesthetic appeal that this guy's got.
Oh, I can't wait to get it. I want more stuff like this. Weird and wonderful wars. That's what we're about.
They need to do more characters from these games, because I'm fairly certain there's a third one in development.
Yeah,
and you get some crazy characters. This little frog guy called Turgle. It's so cool, man. And I mean, to get a figure of that guy, that'd be great. But I digress, you know.
Ravis.
Yes.
Then we can get Dirge, but
yeah, and you know, maybe we'll talk about it on another more gaming-related stream in the future.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
definitely. Well, that brings us. I mean, I'm just going to echo what I'm assuming from the comments in the chat are Nez's sentiments, because when you're talking about this guy, you might as well be talking Japanese to me, because I'm not a gamer by any stretch. The last time I picked up a console and played it religiously was a PS2.
Get good, scrub.
So, you know, I'm a bit out of the loop when it comes to the gaming side of Star Wars, but figure-wise, it's one that I'm excited about for the people that are excited for it. It's a cool figure, but I've got no connection to it. So for me, it's one that I'll probably pick up, but it's not going to be a priority by any means. But I completely echo everybody's comments about let's get more figures from stuff like this revealed and released. And just to further back on what James was saying, it's so refreshing to see a Jedi Fallen Order slash survivor figure that's not a repaint of a stormtrooper or a battle droid or another version of Cal or another version of the second sister, or it's nice to have a new character. So very, very excited about this one, definitely. But like I said, it won't be a priority for me. What I was planning to do, following our discussion of this character, was just dive off track slightly and talk about gaming greats as a whole, and pick one or two figures for each of us that we'd really like to see in the gaming greats line. But I am a little bit conscious of time, and we've got quite a few more reveals to get through, so we'll put that aside for tonight, and we'll probably make that the subject of our next stream, and we'll do a gaming greats follow-up and talk about some of the characters that we want to see in that line, because I think our choices have probably changed since the last time we got together for a gaming great stream. I think the Forces with Jesse joined us for that one, and a lot of the figures on those lists have ended up getting made, so all good on that front. Hasbro definitely listening to a degree. I definitely got to be said.
Thank you.
Thanks. Moving on throughout, and we're going to continue with the Black series. We've got another reveal. This one comes to us from the Clone Wars.
Oh.
The Commando droid. Very, very cool to see. I'll be honest, upon reveal, I was a little bit apprehensive, just based on, again, previous droid figures that they've released in the Black series. Janke, Fiddly, not great at standing up, but if that super battle droid is anything to go by, I've got absolutely no concerns about this figure. James, this is probably another one that you want to take first, mate, because of your connection to the Clone Wars. Thoughts?
It's all coming full circle now, mate. Yeah, I'm chuffed about this. I mean, I've got very fond memories. 2008, watching Rookies for the first time and seeing these guys jump into action, and the stuff of nightmares, really. Just that there's a particular scene on that landing pad where Rex and Cody shoot one and it just regenerates. That's just lived with me ever since, and these have been missing from my 6-inch Clone Wars display for years now. I've debated picking up some 3D printed kits, but I'm a bit naff at all that stuff, so now we've got a proper one, and I welcome this. I've pre-ordered 2, and I will hopefully be welcoming many more repaints, because Hasbro, have at it. I will buy all of them.
Absolutely. Just going back to the gaming greats discourse as well, like, surely this means that the Commando droid that we see in the new Outlaws game has got to be coming.
Oh, please.
Soft trench coat, give it that.
And ND5, his name is so cool.
Absolutely. What about you, Neil? Is this one for you?
No.
Okay.
Question.
Short and sweet, love it.
No, it's look, as you said earlier about one of the figures, I'm happy for those that are happy about it. It's not me, and also at my age and living on a pension, albeit a private pension, not just an old age pension. And Kia's taking me winter fuel allowance. No. I have to be very selective now. When I collected, when I was working and bringing in a decent salary and all that good stuff, if it had Star Wars written on it, I would buy it. And now I have to be more selective. If I had the money, I would probably get it, but there are other ones that I would choose before that.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, for me, I'm right there with you, Neil, because to be honest, once upon a time I was a completist myself, and like you said, I think that sums it up perfectly. Anything that has Star Wars on it, at one point I would have picked it up, but as we all know, as collectors, I mean, this issue hits some harder than it hits others, but space is a commodity. And I'm at that point in my collection now where I'm like, okay, I want this figure. It's very, very cool. But do I care about it enough to dedicate a space to it in what is fastly becoming a very, very cramped room?
Yeah.
This one, though, for me, is up there. It's one that I want because I, like James, have got very fond memories of watching Rookies for the first time. One of my favourite episodes of Clone Wars, albeit one of the first. Collector Cove in the comments has said himself, are we going to see a variant with the clone helmet? Because that bit in the episode is really, really cool. Fond memories of the 3 3/4 inch version with the clone helmet. And it is a really, really good figure, and it's just skinny enough that I don't have to dedicate too much space for it. So it'll
just squeeze it in.
That's it. It can just fit in there. On the subject of being selective, though, and I think this is one of those figures that's, I wouldn't say it's divided people per se, but I think there's definitely going to be people in the I've seen this before, I don't care for it camp. And then there's going to be people in the other camp that think this is the definitive version of this character. This is a figure that I need to get. This is the best version of it so far. Let's have you. Luke Skywalker from the Black Series, from Episode 4 in New Hope. Now, for my money, I fall into the latter camp. This is I would go as far as to say, and some will disagree based on that head sculpt, but I'd go as far as to say this is the best and so far definitive Luke Skywalker in any scale. As excited as I am for the TVC one, and we'll touch on that later. But again, going back to space being a commodity and all that sort of stuff, I touched on it in the live stream I appeared on with the guys from Out of the Basement recently, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. And in terms of when a figure gets an upgrade and a definitive release like this, where do you guys sit on the retiring the previous version? Do you get the new one and retire the old janky one, or do you keep both in your collection and display them both and have that sort of history and evolution on display in your own collections?
Go on, Dan. You take this one first, mate. Yeah.
This is going to be the one that sort of makes me answer that question, because I hate retiring figures. It's weird because it's like you have that connection to the original one, like the hype of getting it and think, oh, that's really good. And then naturally when you get this one, you look at the previous one, it's like, oh, that's a bit naff now. And that's what I'm doing with the one that's on my shelf. But I like to try and find a way to keep it on my shelf, because that's the one that I first got, and it's nice to see the progression when Hasbro makes it better. So, I mean, and something else I've really got into recently with my displays is having characters in more sort of muted poses. So rather than having, like, lightsabers like that, ready to fight, I've gone for more, like, chill poses. And this gives me an excuse to either use this one's a more action-orientated one, or the other version just with the macro binoculars like that. So, yeah, that's my plan. But, again, space. It's all the other Cantina aliens and stuff that we're probably going to get as well.
Yeah.
That's going to force one of them off the shelf. That makes me sad. Because I love all my figures.
What about you, Neil? Again, obviously, as a selective collector these days, is this one for you? Or have you seen enough Luke Skywalkers in your collecting career to not give a toss?
No, the jury's out is my answer. I'll need to see it in the flesh to make a decision on it. I do understand that all the time there are new collectors coming into the hobby, and who haven't got Luke Skywalker, and there are those who are already in the hobby that don't like the Luke Skywalkers that they've got and want a better one. I get all that, and part of the the appeal of the Star Wars fandom, the good side of the fandom, not the idiots, is that there are different ways to collect, there are different ways of displaying and all that good stuff. I am selective, and I would rather, and you and I have spoken about this many times, I would rather they made figures that they haven't made before. Like, there are some incredible characters in The Rise of Skywalker, and in both scales, they've ignored them. Where's Luke, whatever he's called, Allegiant General Pride? Where's Claude? Where's Ashab Akbar?
Yes, fucking love Claude.
Where are these characters? And yet we turn out another Luke Skywalker and another Princess Leia. The jury's out. If it's a great looking figure in hand, then I'll add it to the collection. If it's not, I'd rather have the space for Claude.
Yes.
That's fair. I can't say more than that. Again, weird Star Wars is the best Star Wars. We're just gonna say it. Gotta say it. Collector Curve in the chat. Create Luke in Black Series. That's one that we need.
Please.
Like, where is Create Luke? I'm all for this. I'm excited about this figure because I think for me, I'm in that sweet spot because I've got the original Farm Boy Luke with the soft goods tunic. I've got one loose on my A New Hope Black Series shelf, but I've also got the Power of the Force carded anniversary figure still in the packaging. So, and that's on a completely different display. I've got a little bit of a Luke's Journey section in my collection. So I'm in that sweet spot where I can afford to retire the old one that's open in the box, but I've still got the original still technically out on display. So for me, I'm really, really excited about it. But what will come as probably a shock to most viewers of these streams is the fact that I'm actually more excited about this one because I have missed out so many times on what has been previously called a definitive Luke Skywalker figure from Episode 4. Be that the 2004 VOTC one with, again, the soft goods tunic, or the figure that came in the Legacy Collection Resurgence of the Jedi Battle Pack. Missed out on both of those figures, and I've got on my collection room floor, because I was waiting for this day, an empty TVC Landspeeder that needs a pilot. So I'm very, very happy about this release from the Vintage Collection. It probably falls into the same category for you, Neil, as the Black Series version. But just as a figure and as a release, what do you make of it?
It's exactly the same category. However, because it doesn't take up as much space, because it's a lot smaller, that's an easy purchase.
Yeah. What about you guys, Dan? This one for you? Or is it too TVC for you?
It's a bit too Vintage Collection for me. Everyone, if you're into Vintage Collection, you're going to have your cake, you eat it, you're going to like that. Love that for you.
James?
Yeah, same, really. It's great for everybody that wants it, but I don't collect anything, outside of Mando, Ahsoka, and all that business in TVC, so not for me.
That's fair. I'm loving this. Like, there's so many different thought processes behind. This is, and again, going back to what you said earlier in the stream, James, about the stories that Neil had to share. Like, having all these different viewpoints and these different stories and different ways that we all collect. I love it.
I love it.
It's great to hear. It really is great to hear. But moving on throughout the reveals again, I'm a little bit conscious of time. But Black Series Leia,
very exciting.
Oh yes.
Yeah, meant. Just to touch on what you were saying about retiring old or displaying multiple. I'm a mix of the two, really. Luke and Leia will just be replaced. I think the old ones weren't particularly great when they came out. I think they were probably better than, I think we hyped ourselves up into believing they were better because they are essentially the definitive versions of the character in design. So we probably thought the figures were a bit better than they ended up being. But when it comes to some of the figures, like the R2 units and stuff, we've got a new mold for them now, but I still keep the old ones out because R2D2 and R5 were from The Mandalorian, so those are the shelves they've gone to. And there's an absolute buttload of older mold droids for Episode 4 that I don't really want to get rid of because they're very hard to get. So it just depends. It depends which way the wind's blowing, I guess.
I think this is another one of those figures though that's multifaceted, because if you've got that original Leia that came with the soft goods gown, that figure can kneel down. So if you are like Dan and you're putting your figures in more dynamic poses, you can have Leia kneeling down, giving the plans to R2
and
with the original release. Whereas with this one, it's more of a static piece that you're just going to have stood kicking about on your shelf. I think this figure is absolutely excellent, but I after seeing it in hand at the Hasbro press brunch last week, I've got to say there's not enough about it that's better. It's different, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's better than the original.
I think head sculpt wise. Then again, I've got the really janky one that first came out before they updated it.
Oh, you got the monkey face one.
Oh, I got the monkey face one. So I am absolutely gushing over, and I'm probably going to use it on my Rogue One shelf because with her in that pose, I think that's going to look absolutely bob on. And I haven't really got much on my Rogue One shelf, so that'll.
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually. I never thought of that.
You've stolen my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry,
I love the hood for some reason. I don't know why. And that's, I would buy that, and I do have a bit of space on my Rogue One shelf, and that's where that would go.
Yeah.
So, instant buy for the four of us then. Love
She's
that.
just very sexy, isn't she?
Well, there is that. I mean, the fact that she's had her legs painted, though, that's a bit, takes that sexiness away a little bit.
There's a bit of controversy with that. I don't know if you guys have seen the glam shot where you can see the legs. It looks like it's pinless double jointed. But a lot of people have sleuthed out that it's pretty much an identical mold to the old one that had pins. So Hasbro up to their old game of editing the pins out of the shots. Or are we actually getting pinless double joints? I know which answer gets my vote, but
I mean,
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
As nice it'd be to see that updated articulation, I think for a figure like this where the legs are covered for the most part, it doesn't really matter. It still bends the same way, it still moves the same way. And like I said, with this figure being all plastic now instead of soft goods, you're not going to have this one kneeling down and posed in a dynamic way. She is literally just going to be standing there. So
yeah,
it's fine. It's fine.
Different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
That's it, and that's what
I was more thinking. I was more thinking if they had put the R&D into that new articulation, is it done in the sense of forward thinking? They've just used it here because it's easy to and it suits the bill, whereas they'll use it, this new bit of kit they've made for a new figure later down the line.
Yeah,
but guess we'll see.
Maybe. What I really like about this one, though, is the fact that it is, for the most part, again, after seeing it in hand last week, it is essentially an upscaled version of the TVC one, which is a figure that I think is... I haven't picked it up yet, but I need to, because I need it for my Blockade Runner display. But it's such a well-made figure. But again, and controversial opinion maybe, but this figure takes that TVC one and makes it just so much better because, again, as Neil said earlier, there's a bigger canvas to play with.
Yeah.
The head sculpt is a lot better. And not only that, but the hood now with the Black Series one is, with the TVC figure, it just clips on to the figure. Whereas with this one, you pop off the head, the hood's got an actual ring around it, which fits over the neck post, and then you pop the head back on. So you've got that much more natural look, and you haven't got a giant hole sitting in the back of the figure's back.
That's very
when
clever.
you accessory, so that's all good. And again, it's a major upgrade. It is a major upgrade. So I'm very excited about that one as well. To be fair, very very excited about it. Moving on throughout the Black series, we have another figure which, for me, it's a new character, so it's long overdue. Commander Bakara from Revenge of the Sith. We need more characters from Revenge of the Sith, and if I was going to pick one, this is definitely one of the top 5, maybe even top 3. This is, without a doubt, one of my favourite Clone Commander designs. I love the helmet. I love the scene itself in the movie. A lot of fond memories of picking up this figure. Highly sought after when it was first released in the Revenge of the Sith line back in 2005. To see it again upscaled and in Black series, dream come true. And I'm glad that Hasbro got there first and not AliExpress, because I would have, if AliExpress had beat them to it, I might have had to have folded and made my first purchase. But yeah, I'm over the moon with this one. Along with Shizo, this was a fast pre-order. What about you guys? Are you feeling this one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Galactic
100%.
Marine next.
Please.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He's going to
Begging
look
for
really...
that.
Can I just ask, where do you get these pronunciations from, right, for characters that are not mentioned by name in the movie? Bakara. Where does that come from? See, I called him when they did the 3.75 one, Bakara, because there used to be a band called Bakara back in the 70s.
Maybe we've all been saying it wrong.
Yeah.
Bakara.
Do you know what? Though? To be fair, maybe that is the case, James, because for years I was calling Shizo Ziza.
I was calling him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, when I found out that it was pronounced Shizo, I was a little bit disappointed because I thought Shizo sounded Shiza compared to Ziza. There we go.
Good, very
So
good.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it's just you hear one person say it once and then you assume that that's how it's pronounced. I mean, I remember years ago when I was in primary school, even though his name was quite clearly stated in the game, I ran around the playground calling Kyle Kartanen for the longest time. So it is what it is. I think you just hear it once and you just cling on to it. I mean, it's like you, Dan. I think you pronounce Darth Revan, And
Revan? Yeah.
I've always pronounced it Revan. You call Dash Rendar, Dash Render. I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's
because I'm common, Steve. Dash Fender is my favourite. Darth Revan.
Tomato. Palpatine.
That's it.
Yeah, precisely. There you go.
Fett. Robert Fett.
Robert Fett. But, nah, I mean, awesome figure. Really, really good figure.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're using the updated body for it as well. Yeah, just really, really exciting. Really, really happy about this one. Hopefully, this means if the leaks are to be believed, that a Commander Cody is on the way. I'm really hoping that we see an updated version of him because that's much needed. And hopefully, we get a few excited. I'd like to see these figures come with a little bit more in the way of accessories. If they did do a Commander Cody, I think it needs to come with Phase 2 and Phase 1 helmets, but that's by the by. That's me wanting my value for money from Hasbro.
Sidious hologram.
Not going to happen. Hasbro will definitely release A Phase 1 and A Phase 2. You won't do one that has both helmets because you can get more money out of idiots like us.
To be fair,
even if I'm an autistic twat, I know that is incorrect, Steve. So accuracy and all that business.
Okay, big fan, we know. I think that just about pretty much brings us to the end of the Black Series reveals we got at Pulse Con. We did get one more, but it wasn't a Black Series 6-inch figure. It was a Black Series helmet. And as cool as this is, there are a million helmets I would have prioritized over this one. I'd have preferred to have seen a Jango Fett helmet first, a Commander Cody helmet first, a TIE Pilot helmet, an AT-AT driver helmet. This is cool, but it's not for me. You guys, what are you... What do you?
I mean, I've got a cheeky little mate that can get me 30% off one, so that might just twist me arm, I suppose. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I'll be honest.
I was kind of happy with it. I was like, yeah. I'm not
I was kind of chuffed when they revealed it, but.
So you like it, but not enough to buy it.
Yeah, it was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, yeah, but
that's where I'm
like
at. I mean, it looks great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Emily Swallow was showing it off in the live stream, and it looks great. It's so nicely weathered, but it's just not. Again, space. It's a commodity. I want to dedicate the space I've got, or lack of, to things that I really, really, really care about. So that's what I'm saying. If they did a TIE Pilot helmet or a Django helmet, I might be a little bit more inclined.
Why have they not repainted the Scout Trooper helmet to be Ezra's?
Yeah,
please, for the love of God, Hasbro. The one time I ask you for a repaint.
This is it. The repaints we want, we never bloody get. What about you, Neil? How do you feel? How do you feel about the Black Series helmets? Because I don't know whether have you got any of the other ones?
I do. I have. If you remember, when I came down to see your collection, even though you took me to a brewery and got me drunk afterwards, one of the things I remember that was really cool was the Luke X-Wing. I'd never seen it in hand, and I didn't know that it did all the noises in the ears and the lights and all that. And I came home and ordered one. So I have the Luke one. I have a Stormtrooper that was gifted to me. And even though it's pretty much exactly the same thing, I had to get the Trapper Wolf helmet because I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
They're the only Black Series helmets I have. I do have quite a lot of other helmets, if you remember, but they are ones that Daz Wildman made, like very movie accurate. 212 Battalion clone, and I've got a Rex and I've got a Cody and First Order Stormtrooper, but no, they're the only 3 Black Series I've got.
Yeah. See, the last one I got was the Captain Rex helmet, and for my money, that is the best one they've ever done. It is such a stunning piece, and I think if I had all the space in the world, I would invest so much more in these helmets, because I think for the price point and the budget, if you're not in the market for the higher end replicas, these are a really, really good alternative. And I love the fact that they're churning them out so frequently as well. So if you are a prop or a costume collector and you want to go down this route, there's so much choice. And I'm hoping that helmets like this do open the gates for, again, TIE Pilot helmets, AT-AT driver helmets, all that sort of stuff. It's a good step in the right direction, definitely, but it's just not
a very small note, if Hasbro happen to be listening at all, can we stop wiring electronics into it just for the sake of having a red light on the inside of the helmet?
Yes.
If you're going to put electronics in it, can we have some voice lines instead? I think that'd be a bigger selling point than, oh, Luke, it lights up red when you put it on. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool, but I'm not going to be seeing that when it's on my head, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's something they started doing, because, I mean, like, as Neil said earlier with the Luke X-Wing helmet, there's phrases in that. When you put that on, it's like you're in the cockpit of an X-Wing, because you've got Wedge and all the other pilots talking in your ear. Why they stopped doing that, I
think we did that with the Poe Dameron one as well, to a degree.
I really don't know why they've stopped, because I think with the Rex helmet especially, to have that, and have the lines from the Clone Wars, the clones in the midst of battle and stuff going on in your ear, that'd be awesome. Hasbro, if you're listening, sound effects.
And also if you're listening, Hasbro, Biggs Dark Lighters helmet, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just, Garrick Hagan's getting on a bit now, and I would just love him to see his helmet going into the shops before he shuffles off this mortal coil.
And to get that all-important signature on it as well. I think that's... Continuing on throughout the Hasbro Pulse Con, reveals, we'll glide through, because we are, for those of you that are watching who don't know, we are predominantly a Black Series live stream, so TVC tends to just get pushed to the side a little bit. If you love it, you love it. Great. I still love it, but it's just not my.
I've got it.
My current jam. I have this in Black Series, so I'm not bothered about it in 3 3/4 inch.
Yeah, bigger is better. Ask your lady friends.
6 inches.
It's what I keep hearing, but there's not much I can do about it, unfortunately. Is it one for you guys? Are you bothered about this?
Nah.
Even though it does come with one little extra accessory, that's not enough to, tickle my tiddler.
Well, I think when we were at the Star Action Figures Hasbro event, this thing came up of like, why in the vintage collection line do they just do one figure? I know that this is the second one from Acolyte, so okay, 2 figures. But like the Bad Batch, why just do Hunter? Why not do all of them? And yet in the Black Series they do all of them, and in the Black Series Acolyte they do all of them,
and you get the full wave.
If this would be better for me in a box set with all the other characters.
Yeah, because they did it for Retro Collection, so why not do it for? I think for characters like this, where they are part of a team or part of a group, the box set format would work really, really well. Whether they do it as those black and white, more simple boxes that they put out the Army Builder sets in, or whether they do it like the Retro Collection sets, where you get the box set but you've got individual carded figures in each of them. I think it'd be amazing if they did things like that for figures that come as part of a team. So if they do the Bad Batch, the rest of the figures in addition to Hunter, do it as a box set. If they do the Rebels crew, do it as a box set. Ghost, not counted.
It's also a clever way of Hasbro preventing peg warmers.
Yep,
absolutely.
It prevents peg warmers. It covers 2 sins really, because it not only stops the peg warmers, but it also convinces people to buy characters that they're not really going to be that bothered about, to buy characters that they're not bothered about, to get the ones they are. So it does beg belief why they haven't done something like that yet. But yeah, by the by, it's a TVC figure of a figure that we've already seen in Black Series. So, moving on through TVC, we have Dedra, which is a great character, and I'm thrilled to see her in the line. But to
Black Series did it better.
And they did. Oh, hey.
Literally about to take the words out of my mouth, because this one comes with, well, for a start, and it was pointed out to me at the press brunch last week, the legs are from a male Imperial officer.
It's half a V, isn't it?
Yeah. And it doesn't come with as many accessories as the Black Series figure. Yeah. So, yeah, Black Series gets my vote. What about you, Neil? You in the market for some Andor goodness?
Well, I don't know how controversial this is on your your show, but I desperately disliked Andor.
Oh dear, Dan, cover your ears, mate.
Oh no, we had this discussion.
There were literally episodes where nothing happened. There were no character development. It was just dull. The storylines all came to a dead end. One way out, one way out, one way out. I can't swim. What?
Oh no.
No. I didn't like it. I do have some Andor figures in my collection, the Black Series, because they're just cool characters. But it's not for me.
No, I agree. I don't agree with your thoughts on the show, because I absolutely bloody loved it, but that's by the by. Figure-wise, I've got to echo the sentiments of Out of the Basement, who've mentioned this Dedra reveal right here is 99% of the reason why they prefer Black Series. Bigger scale, better likeness, and they have a brand new Imperial Officer body, which looks 10 times better than this. Yeah.
Small bit of information as well. They could have just reused the officer from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Her name completely slips my mind. Tala.
Yeah.
But they actually had a brand new upper body for Dedra in the Black Series. So, it says it all.
Yep, it does. It is what it is. Another TVC figure that is what it is the Clone Lieutenant, which I've got to say, it's cool. It's another clone trooper. But it isn't a Clone Lieutenant.
Yep.
It's a 501st Clone Trooper. He's not got the dots. Put the dots on it. Got it in Black Series. Couldn't care less.
To be honest, I actually want this carded. I want it carded.
See, that's the thing, because just going back to previous streams that we've done as well, we did the watch along to episode 5 because we knew going in that we were going to get these moments in the episode.
Yep.
Great scene. Absolutely incredible scene. I love that episode of Ahsoka. It's my favourite one.
Yeah.
And I love the choice of card back that they've used for this figure. Again, it just boils down to the space and the diversion of that space to characters that I really, really want to see. When it comes to TVC card backs, I'll grab them until the cows come home. If the artwork and the character is, I've got a collection going on of all the TVC ARC troopers over here carded, because I love the figures. I think it's great to have all the different variations of them, and the card art is sublime. This one just doesn't tickle my pickle.
Really? It's me malicious, baby. It's the simulations. It reminds me of the simulations, just like the simulations. It's brilliant. I love the card back on this one.
It is a great card back, and like I said, it's what I love about it is that they've used a still from the show instead of like a mock-up press shot, which I think TVC does best when it really dips into that. What made the original run of figures back in the 70s and 80s so good is that even if the still image of the character is grainy as shit, and it's from a, you can't see, like the Endor Rebel Trooper, for example, it's such a grainy, horrible picture, but it slap it on a card back and it just evokes that feeling of those original figures.
You might not believe it, but it's actually photoshopped.
I know it's been sharpened and it's been...
No. I mean, the scene in particular where you see this clone trooper run past the camera, it's just a plain white clone trooper.
Oh, of course it is. Oh, my God. Disgusting behaviour.
I'm buying the figure, but the card's getting in the bin, so I don't really care.
Oh,
fair enough. What about you, Neil? Is this because you've got quite the army of clones in your collection? Is this one for you that you're going to add to it, or?
I will buy it. Goodness knows where I'm going to put it, because the clone shelves are full. But I'll find somewhere. I'll stick it in a gunship or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's cool, and again, happy for those that are happy about it. But for my money, moving on throughout TVC, this.
Yeah, buddy.
This is a reveal. This is a reveal, and I'll vouch for this one because it's another Anakin Skywalker, but it's in his best costume. I'm going to say it. This is Anakin's best look, and after seeing it in person at the Hasbro event last weekend, and Lewis from the SWTVC podcast actually came along and came prepared, as he brought the original TVC figure along with him, which I have to hand, but I can't find it at the minute. Because I think one of the things going into this one, when it was pipelined, is it going to be different from that original figure, or is it just going to be the same figure churned out on a new card? To answer that question, this is, for the most part, I think with the exception of the arms, this is a brand new figure. And again, shout out to Lewis for bringing that original TVC figure along to the Hasbro event last weekend and allowing us all who were there to compare the two. This is leaps and bounds better than that original TVC release, and this is one that I'll buy.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
What a dream to see him in that armor as well.
I know, right?
So to get a proper figure of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, please.
I mean, I've got the Sideshow 1/6 scale Anakin in this getup, which is, I think, the first time that any company ever produced a figure of Hayden Christensen's likeness, but in that costume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I want this figure so much, because it just evokes all the memories of buying that figure and thinking, how cool would it be if we got Hayden in that costume to then actually get it in the show. Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. So see, there is some TVC love on these streams, guys. We dish it out here and there where it's warranted. Enter the controversy, because
Yes.
Oh dear.
our final TVC reveal from Pulse Con, and they led me down the garden path on this one, because again, me and James were watching along on a video call.
Oh, boy.
And I think that the Hasbro team introduced this as, this is a big one, this is going to be a good one, and if you've got the Cantina, this is going to go great with it. And Neil, we had this conversation the other day about this playset, and it's good that, again, we've got differing opinions and we've got all these differing thoughts on this, but the Tatooine playset. Now, I appreciate the sentiment. I get the thought behind it, which we'll touch on in just a bit. But for me, the way this was hyped up, and then when it was revealed, I'm going to piss off a lot of people when I say this, I think, but I have never been more disappointed in a product, because as soon as this came up on screen, my first initial thought, I looked at it and I just went, where the fucking hell is the rest of it? which is fair enough. Which is fair enough if this is going to be one of those releases where they release another playset down the line and you can build on it, and they do another one that, you know, where you can add to it, and I get that, and if that's the case, I'll eat my hat. But if that is the direction they're going, and they're going to do another Tatooine playset like this, which adds on to it, why not announce that when this was shown? Because at least then, for people like me who think this is bollocks, have an incentive to then buy this one to then get the ones that.
Can I do one better? Can I do one better?
Go on.
And this follows on from James. Why the hell did they do the Cantina as a HasLab exclusive, which is not too dissimilar to this when you break it down, and you included the figures to go with it? Why? What? I don't get Hasbro's logic there. And this is just stinky.
Yeah. Is it Return to Tatooine or Return to Tat? Because I'd be fucking questioning it after this one.
That's it.
I'm sorry, and I know a lot of people who watch these streams regular will think, here he fucking goes again, because it's not something in 3 3/4 inch you collect. I'd have bought this if it was generic enough to go with some of the Disney Plus series things.
You know what? I'm gonna counter that argument, James, because I actually think that this is generic enough to be displayed with, and I think the thing that I want to commend Hasbro on with this is the things that they've included with it that aren't specific to the Cantina or to Episode 4. The fact that you've got the doorknob droid is, I think, an absolute stroke of genius. The fact that it's not seen.
That's definitely Mandalorian, Ahsoka.
Precisely. Yeah, I think it's not scene specific. It's not accurate to anything we've seen in a previous film or show, and that's the one thing that I do love about it. For me, it purely boils down to the execution. As Tim from Bosk's Bounty mentioned to me on Saturday just gone when we were at the Hasbro event, that the intent behind this particular playset is to go at the back of your shelf to display your figures in front of it. From that side, totally agree. I think that's great, and it'll look fine. From the side, though, just having half of that dome just looks so awkward and weird. And if there is an argument to be had that they're going to do another playset, you're going to be able to add to it. I hope that they fill in the rest of that dome, because it just looks incredibly awkward to me. It looks unfinished. The lack of weathering contributes to the fact that it looks unfinished.
Yeah.
And I think Out of the Basement mentions it here, but in a positive way. $59.99 USD. I think the price over here is about the same. I think it's about £50-60. There is no value for money there for me. For 60 quid, that is not a 60 quid playset. That's a 30-40 quid playset at most. The Navarro Cantina was far better than this. The Jabba's Palace display that came out right at the beginning of the vintage collection when it was revived was way better than this. I love the accessories it comes with, and I love the
jar is the best thing about it.
Yeah, as
I
Dave
said to you, Steve, that's how we felt when they showed it.
Yeah. It has its pros and it has its cons. For my money, it looks far better on the front of the box than it does in person.
I think what I meant to say is it is too generic, because the issue I've got with it, just to elaborate a touch, is with all of these playsets, for the majority, they are something a little more iconic than this. I think although there's a cantina coming out, there's more reliance upon Tatooine being iconic in itself. But I don't think it... I know it's obviously Tatooine when you look at it, but for me it doesn't bring enough of that to warrant this sort of a release.
No, I do see where you're coming from. I'd have just liked a little bit more. I think it purely boils down to my issue with the HasLab Cantina is the fact that it's too much hollow plastic.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's not substantial enough. It's not beefy enough to warrant the cost. It's not, chunky enough to warrant purchasing and adding to my display. But again, I'll defend the Hasbro playsets, because when they're good, they're really good. The Blockade Runner is fantastic. I love it. Like I said, the Navarro Cantina, superb. Neil, what are your thoughts on this? I know how you feel about this one, and I'll be honest, you surprised me when you told me.
I absolutely love playsets. Playsets is my thing, and so I can't wait to get my hands on 3 or 4 of these. I'll probably buy about 6 if I'm honest. And I think that's the thing with it. You talked about it being not solid enough. It's a bit hollow. Don't forget that I come from an age when playsets had a plastic base and a piece of cardboard at the back. So this is like being in a movie to me.
Do you know what though? Like I appreciate the cardboard displays though for what they are, because there's a charm to them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, they've done cardboard displays while in my lifetime with the Power of the Force stuff, and I can appreciate it for the charm. And if they did stuff like that nowadays, I wouldn't even be mad. They did those solo play sets a few years back, which I love.
If you could find them,
if you can find them, but I love them. I think they're amazing. But for me, if you charge, it's purely down to cost and execution. This just misses the mark completely for me.
Well,
it's trying to be something it's not.
Just wait till it goes in game for 30 quid.
That's what I'm hoping for.
But just going back to your comments about it not being solid, it's not enough. I don't think the Tantive set is enough. That only looks good when you put 2 or 3 together.
I have to disagree, because I've got it displayed just as it comes with all the fleet troopers on it and stuff, and it is. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my favourite displays in my collection, because finally to have that represented on my shelf in any form, I think it looks great. So I get what you're saying about this set, because that's probably the exact same way you feel about the Tatooine one.
Yeah, it's the Tantive one. I've got it displayed just as it comes with Rebel fleet troopers and stormtroopers and Vader and that. But honestly, I've seen people who've put 2 or 3 together, and it looks way better. The Bespin Cloud City thing that looks like it was made out of colander and some wire cord. that looks marginally better.
Yeah.
When you put two of them together, because it looks like a complete one, not half of one.
Yeah.
But this I think will look better when you buy lots of them. And this is very selfish, but I really appreciate the thing about it being flat, because I can put it to the back of the shelves, and put some figures in front of it, and it'll look outstanding.
I think that, don't get me wrong, that is fine. The fact that it is meant to go to the back of a shelf and you display your figures in front of it, I totally appreciate that, and that's ideal for the situation I'm in with space. That is the ideal scenario. It's one of the many reasons why I've not picked the Cantina up, because it's just too damn big. But again, it's just purely down to if it's not the execution, then it's definitely the cost. Because I feel like for 60 quid, where's the money?
I think
in that?
if they'd included some more little extras, like the crates are really cool. I think that's a nice addition.
Definitely.
If they did like more of an accessory builder pack, like blaster effects, like you got the stickers with the Cantina where you can put. If you could customize it so you could put like wanted posters, have a different set.
Yeah.
Just lots of little easy accessories you can put in, blasters.
Yeah.
I
think what I'd have really liked to have seen released with this, be it in place of the Jawa or in addition to, I don't know what it's called, that giant dome droid that you see outside the Cantina. It looks a little bit like that. Looks a little bit like that Thunderbird vehicle you showed off earlier, Neil. It's the one with all the. Do you know which one I mean? The big.
Yeah, it's a speeder. It's a speeder.
It's a speeder.
Yeah.
Throw that in with it.
That would have been perfect.
I mean? Or the old. I think it was an ancient, like an R1 unit or something. That tall grey droid that they released in the Saga line back in 2002. Just something a little bit more chunky and substantial to just warrant the cost.
I think
because that's my main issue with this, is just that to me does not look like 60 quid's worth of product.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. That's the bottom line for me.
To be fair, a TVC figure doesn't look like 20 quid's worth of anything to me.
Agreed. Vintage collection as a whole, I think it's again not to bring it back to Black Series, but it's one of the reasons why I've fluctuated more in that direction, because there is just that little bit more. And I said this to some of the guys at the Hasbro event last week. I said a Black Series figure is 25 quid, a TVC figure is 16, 17. I, for my money, would much rather spend that extra few quid, get something a little bit bigger and a little bit more substantial, something that feels like I'm holding that value for money in my hand. I don't feel like that with TVC anymore. As great as the figures are, and I'm going to go back to it, because recent releases, like Captain Rex, like going even a little bit further back, cost aside, Paz Vizsla, incredible figure. The Mandalorian Judge, the Mandalorian Fleet Commander, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Maul, Pre-Vizsla. TVC is probably at its best in terms of quality. Shallow peg holes be damned. But it's again that cost. The quality's there, but the cost is just. And I get inflation, and I get economics and all that sort. I don't get economics, but you get the gist. It's just the value for money for me is there with Black Series. It's not there for TVC, but. I think that's a discussion that we need to have a little bit more in depth in a future stream. But it's really cool to get your guys' thoughts on all the stuff that was revealed at Pulse Con. I'm going to wrap things up because I am, like I said, I am a little bit conscious of time. My wife's dying for a glass of wine and a pizza, and I want to let you guys get back to your evening. But thank you for joining. Neil, especially, thank you for dedicating your evening to joining us tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure to finally get you on one of these.
I've had a blast. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
I think when it comes to that TVC versus Black Series discourse, I'm all for balancing the scales, and I'm an advocate for both lines. Don't get us wrong. But I think when it comes to having that conversation about the scale wars, I'd be really keen to get you back for that, Neil, if that's all right. And there's a number of other people I want to reach out to in the community as well that I think could offer some valuable insight into that. So that's definitely one for down the line. Like I said earlier in the stream, we did want to go off on a little bit of a tangent following some of those Pulse Con reveals, and we did want to talk at length about gaming greats. That is going to be our next stream. We're going to do a Gaming Greats Wishlist 2. The first one we did with the Forces with Jesse about 2 or 3 years ago now. So it's going to be interesting to see our picks for this one. Now that the majority of the figures on that list or on some of those lists were actually made. Neil's got a pick there.
Yes.
Big old snoover. That's a hand painted bootleg, which is another testament to the artistic skills of one Mr. Livesey.
Yo.
But yeah, Gaming Greats is going to be the topic of our next stream. So we'll get all the details together for that, and those will drop on socials in the coming weeks. Once again, like I said, thank you, Neil, for joining us. To Dan and James, thank you, as always, for spending some time with us. And to all of you in the chat, thank you for dropping by. It's been an absolute blast. Like I said, we'll be back with more very, very soon. Until then, as always, thank you for watching. Keep collecting. And all together now, may the Force
be with you.
Breaking all units, fire at will. Pick a target. Want to stabilize the Gold 6. Anybody cover me? I got explosives on my tail. I'm gonna hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them.